Hey folks, Manny CA with another informational, educational, entertaining video. Hopefully you guys get something out of this. On the double action this time series of revolvers. This is just another in a long line of accurate revolver series that we've been doing. This time we're going to talk about the trigger system, the double action trigger system. More specifically, the Smith & Wesson double action trigger system. We're going to talk about smoothing it up. First and foremost, let's get this out of the way. I am not a gunsmith, nor do I pretend to play one on TV. I'm just a tinkerer. I've been shooting for a long time, and this is everything that I've learned over the years of messing stuff up and trying to fix it. And I'd like to think that I got it right. Do this if you feel comfortable. If you don't, then don't do it. I don't know what else to tell you. Oh, and all the hate that I'm getting from a lot of you so-called gunsmiths, don't worry about it, because I'm not going to take any money away from you guys. I'm just going to show people how to do it so that they don't have to wait 6 to 9 months. So why wouldn't you want to know how to do this? So that way, the next time you had to take it to a gunsmith, you at least have a general idea if they're blowing smoke up your butt. Do me the favor, subscribe, and please pass the links out to like-minded individuals, because YouTube isn't doing us any favors by throttling our channel and demonetizing us. Of course, they let the third world population, the third world garbage, come on here and make all the money they want off their advertising. But people like us doing Americana stuff, they shun us. How's that for being a communist traitor? Their reckoning is coming pretty soon. So here we've got our beautiful Model 686 for our demonstration gun. Today we're going to talk about the double action trigger system. Ooh, smoothing it up and kind of tuning it up. Go back and check out our video that we did before where we showed how we smooth this gun up to near perfection. And the way I love to pop my side plate out. La 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 la. Yeah, that's right. The world's going to blow up. We're all going to die. I got a lot of hate mail over that, and it's great because I would love, and every time I ask these people, well, how many side plates have you ruined by using a screwdriver removal method? Silence, there's crickets. Exactly, these things are stronger than you think. The double action trigger design, I don't consider it a conventional sear system. It's more like a cramming action, for lack of a better term, with most of the engagement occurring above each part's pivot. If one were to draw a line between a trigger and a hammer axis. Parts are made of case-hardened, mild steel, and they're about 5 thousandths thick. The full cock notch is approximately 4 to 6 thousandths thick, with mostly factory guns having, pretty decent triggers, unless there's been some abuse by someone that warrants repairing. You'll see damage, especially to stainless guns, which are softer. For some reason, people like to abuse stainless guns because they think they're stronger. I don't get that. What we're gonna be discussing is the trigger and sear connection. That's gonna be this area. Well, let's cock the gun. This is gonna be this area right here, which is hard to see. But lucky for you, I've got a drawing. Keep in mind, this is not to scale, people. So here's the hammer, close up of the hammer, which you saw over there. Here's the sear, here's the trigger. This is the engagement point right here. This is where all the magic happens. There is an extremely small amount right here that engage. Like we said, it's 4 to 6 thousandths. It doesn't take much wear on the sear to go from a neutral system to a negative one. And if you guys don't understand what we're talking about with our neutral, positive, and negative system, go back and watch our video where we talk about it in our single action. It's a heck of a lot easier to understand these concepts when you go back and you review them. So, like we had said, these two areas right here are the engagement. This is where we're talking about push-off. When you go from a neutral or positive system to a negative one, you got to be careful when testing for push-off on these guns. You can actually ruin the sear by rounding it off with excessive force. That's this area right here on the trigger. You'll get that rounded off, and then your gun will not stay reliably cocked in double action. It's like we always say, whenever you do any kind of trigger work, cock the gun and give it a little bit of push. I've seen people testing for push-off at gun shows actually induce it because they think that they're thumb wrestling Hulk Hogan, because they're sitting there and they cock it and they're just putting their whole weight behind it. Don't do that. Don't be one of those guys, especially with a stainless gun. Be gentle. Treat it like a woman, and it will give you years of service. Carbon steel guns are stronger than stainless steel parts. They say about 25 pounds max is what you want to use when you test for push-off, and most of the time, I don't even go that hard. I don't want to prematurely wear the gun. Remember, we're talking 4 to 6 thousandths engagement here. That's not a lot of metal on metal contact, people. Push-off will occur through wear. The engagement angle between a sear and the hammer gets rounded. This will actually push right off of the trigger. So what happens if you have push off? Well, something broke. Something went extremely, horribly wrong. This sear on your trigger has gotten rounded out. How do we fix that? First off, we're gonna have to say that any type of work that you do on your hammer and your trigger, you do not do on the hammer. This notch that's cutting the hammer, remember we said it was what? Test time, yeah, 4 to 6 thousandths thick. It is too hard, too small to do anything with, anything but the most expensive hardened Swiss files. And usually you'll wreck your files trying to fix this notch here. We stone the surface of the trigger. That's right, this side, which comes into contact with the sear at a slight straight angle. This turns the system positive again. And remember, this is an exaggeration. It's a blown up image, so you can get a better understanding and a better view. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take and you're gonna file that top angle straight. And what you're doing is you're gonna rebuild the surface down here into a straight area. You see that? You're gonna go at an angle, boom. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna create a slightly positive angle of engagement where you're gonna take the round level off and make it straight again. That's the angle we're working on, people. Here's a picture of a trigger, and you're gonna be filing this part right up here like that. That'll recut the trigger to fit into your hammer notch without having to worry about ruining this engagement area here. Pretend this is your trigger. We take the trigger, you put it in your vise, and then you take your file and you file it at the angle you need it to go. Just like this. Keep it straight. Do not fiddle bow, people. Keep it straight and just go back and forth. 2 or 3 passes, reinstall in the gun and test it out. You want this to be as flat and straight and true as you can. On this side here, you have your hammer. This is the notch that we had blown up that you do not want to touch on a hammer. Remember, it's too small at 4 to 6 thousandths of an inch, and it's too hard to deal with. What you want to do is you want to deal with the trigger on the back of the trigger notch right here on this area. This is where we're working on, people. And if you get scared, buy an extra trigger. Triggers are cheap. After you're done filing, the best way to test this is to remove your hammer spring and your trigger spring. Watch our video on how we disassembled our gun and you'll see what we're talking about. This spring right here, this is the trigger return spring. You want to remove this and you're going to remove this. Reinstall your trigger, reinstall your hammer. You're going to pull forward on the trigger with this finger and you're going to cock the gun. Slight pressure on the trigger as you cock the gun. Push forward slightly on the hammer and let go of the trigger. If it does not stay cocked, you still have push off. You still have a negative sear engagement and it needs to be fixed. Now you can either go back, refile, try it again, come back and do it again. If that doesn't work, get a new trigger. What we're trying to do by filing this flat is increase the angle just enough to make it slightly positive but not induce creep. There is too much of a good thing in this case. And creep is when you pull the trigger and you can feel it moving. That's not good either. One thing to keep in mind when you're filing, you have about 5 thousandths leeway on the case hardening that you can change the angle without having to worry about it going through. If you don't correct push off, eventually it gets so bad that you will get uncontrollable single action pull and the action will end up binding hard. Ask me how I know. Those of you who want a lighter double action pull, Stay away from the aftermarket springs, most don't work. Case in point, watch our video where we're changing the hammer spring in the gun and you saw what happened, unreliable firings. Your best bet is to recontour the stock hammer spring using a band sander and only do the top side. That's this side right here. We've got a video on it, go back and watch, it's in our Accurate Revolver playlist. It's the same for single actions or double actions. Remove the spring, recontour it, put it back in the gun, test. Rinse, repeat until it's at your liking. The best description I can give you of a flat spring is kind of like a phone book. Layers of paper representing layers of metal which flex against each other, but they're not happy doing it. You can make them happier by recontouring them so they play nice. You could also thin the trigger spring return, which is the spring in here, but I would not, I repeat, I would not cut that or mess with that if this is a gun used for self-defense. If you carry it, leave it alone. And as always, keep spare parts available on what you're working on for the inevitable uh-oh moment. Again, ask how I know. Everything's done. You came through here, you lightened your springs, you fixed your push off. Now it's time to test to see if you're gonna reliably ignite your primers without having to go back to the field and come back. Take a 1/2 ounce aluminum rod, run it down and put it right on top of the firing pin. If the rod travels 1 foot past the end of your muzzle, that's usually a good indication that you will have no misfires, that everything you did is strong enough to still fire your primers. That is a good general indicator. No, I said general. This is not written in stone. This is just what I've used throughout my time because I had a couple of old timers show me this trick. Hopefully you guys had learned something today that you can put to use on an old gun or one of grandpa's guns that for some reason doesn't work anymore. Remember, these are generalities, and if you have any doubts about your abilities, don't do it. You guys have any questions, comments, or concerns? Send them on down. Till next time.